News Radio Wham 1180 welcomes you to the Seniors Rock Show. The Seniors Rock Show, a lively weekly discussion shedding a bright light on aging with fun, entertainment, and important info for all adults. Join us with your comments or questions. Call or text 222-1180 or 1-800-295-1180. Now, from the News Radio Wham 1180 studios in downtown Rochester, here's your host, Joanna Palvino.
Good morning and welcome to the show. I am Joanna and I'm here today to celebrate the next hour with you and with my co-host, estate planning attorney Michael Robinson. And we have Mr. Mike Oden on the board downtown in the tower. And we're all here to work with you and to bring some great information to everybody. And, you know, I was thinking the weather has been so nice for walking this whole summer and fall. But you better start thinking that it's going to be a little different soon, and we're going to have to think about ways to keep moving even when the snow hits, right? And when the walkways are a challenge, a little icy or whatever. So to that end, we invited Dr. Marissa Joyce of Agape Physical Therapy to join us today with her expertise in a type of physical therapy that can keep you moving and getting healthy all winter. And we're also going to pay homage to caregivers everywhere this hour. And this month is National Caregivers Month. So they deserve every day our recognition and our attention. We'll be talking about that. Last but not least, we'll celebrate our veterans and share some of the activities planned to celebrate them this weekend. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that day is all about and the history. Mike likes to talk about that. So we'll do that. And again, lots of important information ahead. So let's start with my important estate planning co-host, Mike Robinson. Good to see you, Mike.
Hey, Joanna, good morning and happy Saturday.
Thank you.
It's a beauty
Thank
out
you.
there, although I don't think we're going to hit the upper 70s despite
No,
the
we were
weather
giggling.
forecast.
Yeah, not that we want to go against the newscast there, but
That's
that
true.
was a
But
little high. But we can
yeah, but
hope.
we'll take it. We'll take it. So, hey, this week I wanted to reference a couple of conversations I had this past week with folks where I had to clear up for them some misunderstandings about Medicaid eligibility. And in the way that these topics come up, and this is one that does come up fairly frequently, is people are concerned that if they require nursing home care at some point in the future, they're going to lose everything they've worked their lifetime to build and have little or nothing to leave for their spouse or their children. And it is easy to understand the concern, you know, with nursing home costs in our area now typically running anywhere from $18,000 to $20,000 a month. So I do understand the concern. But one of the most common misunderstandings that I encounter is, how do you qualify for Medicaid in the context of the 5-year look back? And how exactly does that 5-year look back work? And what the 5-year look back, and I do want to emphasize too, it is a 5-year look back. That was established by the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1993. We usually say OBRA 93 because it's a lot easier. But it's been 5 years since 1993. And a lot of folks I'm hearing are thinking it somehow got increased to 7 years or more. But no, it's a 5-year look back. And many people, Joanna, think that the 5-year look back period is a 5-year waiting period, meaning that if you give away assets in order to qualify for Medicaid, if you've done that within 5 years of making your application, you have to wait for 5 years until you can qualify. But that is not how it works. So the 5-year look back period, that's really a window of time within which the county Medicaid agency wants to know, what have you done with your stuff? And of course, specifically what they want to know is, have you been giving it away so that you can qualify for Medicaid? But it's not a waiting period.
Can I ask a quick question there? So when you say they look back and they want to know what you spent your money on, what are they going to look at? Are they want to know like receipts, or how do they do that?
So good question. What the county social worker is going to do, the caseworker, is they're going to go through 5 years of account statements. So any Any accounts, financial accounts that you've had within the past 5 years, you have to provide statements going back 60 months, 5 years from the time of your application. And the caseworker will go through those statements and identify either deposits or withdrawals that they have questions about. And what they're looking for is what we call uncompensated transfers, or, gifts,
Yeah.
essentially.
Huh.
So if you spent your money to put a new roof on your house, that's not a gift. That was a legitimate expenditure. But if you gave away, sums of money to a family member, even a charitable organization, that's where they're going to start asking questions. But again, it's just a window of time within which they want to look at that stuff. It doesn't mean that somebody can't qualify until 5 years has gone by from the time they made those gifts. And so even if we made gifts and now we're in that 5 year look back period, we can still get qualified for Medicaid. How quickly we get qualified, that's going to depend, of course, on individual circumstances. But we find typically, um, even if somebody's already in the nursing home, if they have assets less left, we're typically able to protect 65 to 70% of them. And for married couples, because of some special provisions, we oftentimes get very close to 100%. So the reason that it's important to have that understanding is many people give up and they think that it's too late for them to do any planning to protect their assets if they're either already in a nursing home or they're very close to going into the nursing home. And so they wind up unnecessarily spending family assets in order to pay for that care. So it's important to understand that it's not a waiting period. It's just simply a period of time within which we need to explain any transfers that have been made. This is a very complex area, and it's very easy to make mistakes. And if the transfers aren't done correctly, that can certainly cost the family a lot of money. But there are effective legal strategies that do allow people to either significantly reduce or sometimes even avoid the impact of the 5 year look back entirely.
Right. And you have to have the accurate information. I think that's the key. Thank you. And, you have to make sure that your concerns are valid. Everybody talks about their concerns and what if this and what if that. But you know what? You might as well just talk to a tree, because if you don't get the right answers, you are not going to get the right outcome. Right. So I have another question. What are some people, when you say the word Medicaid, they kind of cringe and say, think it's for like poor people only. Can you clear that up a little?
Sure, and it is confusing because there's a number of different aspects of the Medicaid program. So, in many respects, it is health insurance for people who have very little income and very little resources,
Hmm.
and that can operate as that individual's general, healthcare insurance. But there are also Medicaid programs that are directed to specific situations, including long term care. And even within long term care, we have the community Medicaid program, which is the program that can provide payment for caregivers to come into someone's home to allow them to safely remain in their home. And then there is the Medicaid program that covers nursing home care. And in some respects, some of the qualification requirements are similar, but there are differences as well. So, in terms of, and you're right, many people think that there's no way I could possibly qualify for Medicaid. I have too much money. And again, with implementing the proper legal strategies, you can have, and that may not sound right to some people, but literally millions of dollars, and we can still get qualified for Medicaid.
Hmm.
So, and sometimes that's important because due to family circumstances, we might look at someone and say, well, they're quite wealthy, but their family may have some very specific and important needs that wealth needs to be there to satisfy.
Hmm.
So it's, we always look at these things on a case by case basis.
Absolutely. It's really kind of fascinating because we think we know all these things, and then you get to the point in your life where you're like really thinking about it, and it's like, I guess I better talk to an estate planning attorney. And to that end, there are lots of them in the area, and Michael Robinson is one of the best in the country. So if you want to talk to him, you can find him at MikeRobinsonLaw.com, MichaelRobinsonLaw.com. But also, as we say almost every week, just go to someone who knows what they're talking about. Don't get your advice at the coffee shop. And it's great to talk to people and to connect, but make sure you're getting an expert when it comes to things like estate planning or wills, right?
Exactly. And as we've said before, we're very fortunate in our area to have several very good estate planning attorneys, including some who do concentrate on Medicaid eligibility planning. So there's no reason folks can't link up with someone who can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to link everybody to people that can help them in the organizations. We're going to talk about caregiving a little more in the next segment, or I'm sorry, later in the show. And you're listening to Seniors Rock Radio. Dr. Marissa Joyce is going to join us next from Agape Physical Therapy. And we're going to tell you about a warm and wonderful way to keep moving all winter long and that she can help you with. Find out what it is next on News Radio, Wham 1180.
All right, that's going to put me to sleep. Welcome back. You're
Or
listening to
make
the
me run out of the
Seniors.
room.
You're listening to the Seniors Rock Radio Show. Marissa Joyce is a doctor of physical therapy at Agape Physical Therapy's Gates location, and she's also the clinic coordinator there. Her interests include orthopedics, neurology, and geriatrics. Marissa hosts a stretch, strengthen, and balance class weekly at the Gates Town Hall Senior Center as well. And Marissa's been with us before. We invited her back today to talk to us about aquatic physical therapy. Welcome back, Marissa.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Joanna. Thanks for inviting me back. Happy to be here.
Hi. That's awesome. Thank you. And we're still giggling over here with the water sound. We try to do some, appropriate sound effects. And I don't know. I think it was
I
funny.
love
We
it.
were teasing it up, but aquatic physical therapy sounds soothing, right? I think it does. It reminds me of a spa, but we need you to tell us a little bit more about it and how it helps people. And as a person with arthritis that knows the benefits of traditional physical therapy at Agape, I was a patient there. I'm very interested in knowing more. So, I'll start the questions, Marissa, and I guess the first one is what is aquatic physical therapy?
Yeah, so aquatic physical therapy is a great tool that we can use to help patients and individuals who are unable to tolerate the traditional land physical therapy. So the way we use the principles of water, which can help create that unique experience to improve range of motion, to improve strength, to improve your balance, and we can do that through the use of pools, rehab tanks, and how we do it at Agape is each session is supervised by your doctor of physical therapy, and the program that we make for you in the pool or in the water is very individualized. It's tailored to what the clients need. And just like traditional therapy, there's a bunch of equipment available to use in the pool. So we have water weights, we have bands, we have kickboards, and there's areas to sit, areas to stand, deep water, shallow water. But the unique thing also is an underwater treadmill. So a lot of patients can be able to walk longer distances, stand longer distances, being in the warm water versus, on traditional land therapy.
That's awesome. So, okay, I'm getting a picture and I have seen the equipment and I've seen the pool. It's very cool. And I'm going to ask, I guess, what are the kinds of things that someone would choose aquatic therapy versus traditional? Like what kinds of physical therapy are they looking for?
Yeah, so we get a lot of patients that come in with a variety of different conditions. So you may choose more an aquatic program because of an acute injury. We get a lot of athletes that are rehabbing, getting back to running, that use the underwater treadmills. We get a lot of chronic pain patients because the water is so warm that they're able to do a little bit more because of the warmth of the water. Helps to relax the muscles. You can stretch. You can do a lot more than you can just on dry land. But I also see a lot of patients for lower back pain. So the way the water works with the unloading of the spine, and gravity can help to decrease back pain. It's really good for patients that have arthritis and can't tolerate a lot of rehab in the gym or in traditional land therapy, because it helps them be able to improve their walking speed, their function with different activities, squatting, standing, transfers up and down, and as well as just increasing overall quality of cardiovascular fitness. So we have a bunch of different conditions that we treat. I find it very, very beneficial for also patients that have neurological conditions, so multiple sclerosis or stroke patients. They do really well in the pool. Gives you a good low-impact exercise program.
So it sounds like, one reason someone might choose aquatic therapy versus the traditional land physical therapy, it comes down to gravity. Is that right?
Yeah, so water has a really unique feature. So water has buoyancy, it has hydrostatic pressure. So being in a water environment helps to offload your body weight percentage and the body weight that's being forced on your joints. So for a lot of our patients, if you're under the water up to about your waist height, your body weight is actually unloaded up to 40%. So you're able to do a lot more, versus if you're in water up to your neck height or your shoulder height, you're actually offloading your joints by about 90%. So it makes it a lot more comfortable. The warm water helps to get the muscles to relax, so it's good for movement, good for mobility, strength training. It's just increased ease with exercise that you may not be able to do just on land therapy. And the pressure of the water actually helps you be able to increase your blood flow. It decreases swelling, increases your heart rate, your circulation. So it's really good for cardiovascular fitness as well.
Wow, that's quite a bit. Where can we find aquatic physical therapy?
Yeah, so there is a bunch of locations that you can find aqua therapy within our Agape program. So at our 6 locations, 4 of them offer aquatic therapy. So at our location where I'm at.
I'm sorry, Marissa, I'm going to jump in because I do want to make sure people have your website, because we have a few seconds left here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back. We always have Agape here, and they're great folks, great information, just like you had today. Folks, you can learn more at agapephysicaltherapy.com. We do need to go to the news, but stay with us because National Family Caregivers Month is this month, and we're going to be talking about that next. Stay right there, please. Welcome back to Seniors Rock Radio. We are now going to talk about family caregivers, because today and all of this month, from the 1st of November till the 30th, is National Family Caregivers Month. It's very important. In fact, last week, Mike touched on a client that's a caregiver, and he got some life-changing help from a couple of local organizations. We thought it was important to expand on this. There are a lot of caregivers out there, and if you're not one, you probably know one. And this is a month that we can provide opportunities. It's a month to recognize and support family caregivers. So we thought we'd do that today. And Mike, we did have to cut you off last week. You were talking about that fellow that was caregiving, and we talked about how men have particular challenges. But I know you talked about some other things that they face. You want to pick up on that?
Yeah, sure. And, caregivers, men and women, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a parent or other family member, there are some common obstacles and challenges that they do face. And, stress obviously is a large one, but that stress results from a number of other issues that typically follow caregivers. And one is social isolation. Caregiving can be, pretty much all consuming. And oftentimes, if the person for whom you're caregiving is housebound, the caregiver necessarily becomes housebound. And so social isolation is not only contributes to stress, it also can lead to depression and anxiety, which can manifest itself in the form of sleeplessness, Oftentimes, caregivers don't feel they're doing enough. Even they're doing probably more than anyone could reasonably ask of them, and so that leads to some guilt, emotional exhaustion, certainly physical exhaustion because of lack of sleep, etc. So there's a lot of obstacles that caregivers have to deal with.
There are. And, while caring for a loved one, it can be rewarding, that's for sure, but it does involve so many stressors, as you said. And some of the common signs and symptoms I thought I would mention, they are anxiety, depression, and irritability. You might feel tired and run down, maybe have difficulty sleeping, overreacting to minor nuances or nuisances, I should say, not nuances, nuisances. So, little things can tick you off because you're beat. You might have newer worsening health problems yourself, trouble concentrating, feeling increasingly resentful. These are normal feelings. Drinking, smoking, or eating more, that's dangerous. Neglecting responsibilities of your own and cutting back on leisure activities.
Yeah, for sure. And oftentimes, it starts out as stress, but over time can lead to real burnout. And one of the things there you mentioned, Joanna, becoming impatient and irritable, especially with the person for whom you're caring,
Mhm.
and that's very common. And your first thought is, well, that's certainly not good for the person who's receiving the care. And certainly that's true. But it's also not good for the caregiver because nobody wants to be that way. And
Mm-mm.
when they find themselves acting out in that way, that just leads to more stress, to self criticism, to more anxiety. And it just becomes, a vicious cycle. And again, as we've talked about, not only do you have the emotional exhaustion, physical exhaustion, which leads to compromised immune systems, right? How many
Yep,
caregivers do you know
true.
who seems like they catch every cold or flu bug or whatever that comes around?
Mhm.
It is a physically draining
Yeah.
situation.
I've even heard of stories, not stories, but reality, that the caregiver actually gets ill and goes before the person they're caring for. That's
You
pretty
know,
scary.
I've
It's critical.
It is, and I've seen that in over the years, and frankly, too many families that happens.
It's really sad. Yeah. And so I guess the first thing I'm gonna say is you gotta take care of your health, all right? Seems like common sense, but it's so hard when you have all these stressors. Things like the things you have to remember, exercise, right? Practice relaxing techniques too, like yoga, those kinds of things. Just breathing, I think, is important. Eat well. We talk about that all the time, Dr. Petrescu. Eat well. It's important for you and for the person you're caring for. Sleeping, right? We need that 8 hours of sleep, and if you need extra help, it's okay to go to a professional therapist, get some help, and, to try to avoid caregiver burnout, okay? And Mike, I know that we talked earlier too about there's another way that you can, avoid caregiver burnout.
Well, I mean, self-care is, the biggest issue, and it doesn't have to be something elaborate. It doesn't mean you're going to a spa, but just trying to arrange for, maybe even an hour or two a day of some respite. Making an effort to reach out and to friends or other family members, maybe they'll come over and join you for coffee or tea or be able to go for a walk. And we have some wonderful resources in our area. So people might think, oh my gosh, I can't afford this or that, or I can't take advantage of whatever. Lifespan, we've talked about the Grape Elder Pages. I know you've got
Yep.
some additional information to share on that. So, one of the things to remember is that you're not alone. There are many other people going through the same thing that you're going through, experiencing the same challenges and emotions. So there are people that you can connect with, and share. And I know that's a little more difficult for the men sometimes than it is for the women to reach out and share in that way. But it is important, and I do want to say, too often that caregiving responsibility in the family is going to fall on a woman. And guys, we've got to step up and do our part as well. It's certainly not fair for the women in the family to have to bear the brunt of those responsibilities.
Well said. And, you mentioned the GRAPE Elder Pages, and GRAPE, of course, if you're a regular listener, you know it's the Greater Rochester Area Partnership for the Elderly, which both Mike and I belong to. And pretty much every one of our sponsors also belongs. Thank you to them. And I wanted to mention that this is a wonderful resource. It is called the Elder Pages, and you can find it at theelderpages.com, and you can get a hard copy, which I'm holding in my hand right now, and you can get that at Lifespan, or you can call the Grape office at 256-4351. But again, theelderpages.com, and this has so many wonderful resources in it. It's in-home services, community resources. They tell you how to use the guide. And just in the index alone, I'm looking at things. We talk about caregiver support today, things like food and nutrition, meals that are home delivered, health services, home health agencies. We talked about Medicaid. It says Medicaid managed long-term care. So if you're trying to get more information on these things, I mean, I can't tell you with wonderful. It's everything, and they don't have to be great members, by the way, to be in the book. So what they did was they reached out. They reach out to everybody in the area, and these people put their information in. They don't have to be members, as I said. So it is a complete guide to everything that supports seniors. Companion care, pet services. I mean, sometimes people just need help taking their pet for a walk because they can't get out. Those things. Respite care, as you mentioned, Mike, and senior volunteer opportunities. We need lots of help everywhere, and we need you to stay with us because we're going to go to break now. But boy, there's a lot going on today. And next, we're going to talk about Veterans Day, and that's really important. So please stay with us. Hello there. You're listening to Seniors Rock Radio. I am Joanna, your host, and that was the Warrior song. We're going to be talking about the big celebration this Monday that is known as Veterans Day. But first, it looks like we have a caller, and oh, it's Peter. Is that you, Peter Gordon?
Hey, hi, Joanna. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. We have a minute for
All
you
right.
here. What's going on? We're going to talk about
Okay.
Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Are you a veteran?
I am not, but at Indoor Air Professionals, we are the largest supplier to the U.S. Navy. So that's very
That's right.
important to us. We support the military by cleaning the duct systems on aircraft carriers, and we're a local family-owned business. How about that? So anyhow, let's get right to duct cleaning. I'm relatively certain most of you have turned your furnace on by now, and there's a lot of people that call Indoor Air Professionals this time of year because we're the only ones that can razor clean 95 to 99% of all the contamination out of your ductwork. And by the way, the next best technology out there only gets 40 to 50% for those that say, hey, I've already had my ducts cleaned. If you haven't had us, you really haven't done it. So what's lurking in there? Well, we know you've talked about it before. The dust, that skin cells, bacteria, mold, dust mite, it's pretty gross. So you get that out of there, and it doesn't get in your lungs, and you are much healthier. So once again, we've heard a lot of the testimonies on the show with people having reduced dust levels, less allergy symptoms and sinus, and even better sleeping. And also we have the medical grade air purifier that's 40 times more efficient than HEPA filters. So I'd like to do a special offer for Veterans Day, and we can still save $175 off for duct cleaning and $300 off the medical grade air purifier. I'm sorry, $350 off that's the portable one. And also, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Peter. That's a great way to celebrate Veterans Day and to offer that to the listeners. We appreciate it. And what is the phone number they should call today? Because you're going to be there
so
waiting.
they can reach, you can dial 585-427-8020. That's 585-427-8020. And then as soon as it picks up, you can just punch in 303, and that will bring it right to my desk. And if you're busy today or over the weekend, you can call me during the week, but I encourage you to call today because I'm right here.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a great rest of your weekend. I hope a
Thank
lot
you.
of folks call you and you stay busy and enjoy the rest of your weekend, Peter. Thanks for giving us a call. Hey, Mike, we're still
Eh,
here.
Yep, we are still here. And Joanna, Monday is Veterans Day, and that is celebrated on November 11 every year. And it is always on November 11 because it recognizes the signing of the armistice, or temporary cessation of hostilities between Germany and the Allied forces in World War I, and that occurred on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And originally it was known as Armistice Day. And in 1954, Congress changed the name to Veterans Day to recognize all folks who have served in our nation's armed forces.
And I wanted to thank all of our veterans as well and salute them on Veterans Day. And I guess every day we should be doing that. And there are a lot of things going on to celebrate or pay homage to them this weekend, including today. There's a parade. If you go online, I can't even, there's too many things to mention. There's a lot of wonderful things going on, free breakfast, free dinners, free lunches for veterans. I mean, a lot of the restaurants have stepped up. So please look into that, folks. If you are a veteran or you know one, and let's treat them really special this weekend. And
Absolutely.
and I think this coming week, I want to mention, we said great, but well, they're having an elder care health fair. So if you are a social worker, a discharge planner, or work with older adults, you're invited to that free event. And that is Wednesday, November 13th. Look up that at grapeelder.com. Mike?
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Be well, and please be kind.
Yeah, I hear that music. Next week, we're going to have the Village at Unity and the Hamlet's General Manager, Janelle Tripany. So join us then, please, next Saturday at 11. Have a safe and happy week and help a caregiver if you can, okay? And don't ever forget, Seniors Rock.